Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads, and I am pretty excited to have this video. I have been going down, sorry, the seagulls are going insane outside of my window. If you can hear seagulls, welcome to Aberdeen, baby. I've been on a nostalgic kick because why not? I have been rewatching The Hills. All of it. I usually finish halfway through season 5, but I watched it all. And I even watched Laguna Beach. So proper nostalgia was happening. And I thought, what better thing to do when I'm being nostalgic and watching my Laguna Beach and Hills content? Why not start reading my books by the cast of The Hills? So I have made my way through the first trilogy by L.C. Conrad. And I have feelings, and that's what this video is going to be about. I am going to include spoilers, so if you have not read this series, which I think is currently 15 years old, be aware because there will be spoilers. I have previously read this series before. I believe I've read it twice, and it's been so long since I read it that I kind of forgot what happened. So it felt like the first time, and that was lovely. So I'm going to go through what each book is about first, and then thoughts and feelings. That sounds like that makes the most sense. Book 1 is L.A Candy, and this basically sets up the entire trilogy. We get to meet our characters. We have 4 main characters. If you only remember 4 people, it will be these 4. We have Jane, who is the sort of normal one, if you will. She is the most relatable character. All of the main characters, the female main characters, are 19. And Jane wants to be a party planner, and she has moved to LA with her best friend, Scarlett. Scarlett is gorgeous. Not just like normal person gorgeous. Like Bella Hadid, how can somebody look this beautiful, gorgeous? She is intelligent. She is the smartest person in any room. She speaks, I think, 6 languages. And she is going to USC, which I think is University of Southern California. She's not like other girls, Scarlett. She is more comfortable in jeans and a vest top than a dress and heels. And she doesn't really like wearing makeup. She doesn't need to. She basically looks like Bella Hadid. She's gorgeous. She's very prickly, and she's not overly friendly, unlike Jane, but they have been best friends since childhood, and they've moved to LA together to fulfill their respective dreams. They live in a really kind of crumbly apartment. It's really, really crummy, and they're not really having the best time. They're not living their LA dreams. So they go off to the club where they meet a man called Trevor, who is a TV producer, and he's trying to get this show up and running, which is a reality show focusing on like hip young things. I sound 95 saying that. Like, he wants a reality show surrounding the real lives of these young adults and their lives, like going to the club and hanging out and just basically having fun. He convinces Jane and Scarlett to be on board. Jane has to do a little bit of persuasion on Scarlett because Scarlett's not overly into it, but they get set up with this really cool apartment, and Trevor takes care of a lot of things for them, and they start to really feel like their lives are going in the direction that they wanted them to. We also have 2 other characters who are added on for the show. We have Madison, who is very thin, very blonde, very smart. She's very scheming, but in a way that she doesn't really get caught. She kind of gets away with it, and she is hungry for fame. We have Gabby, and justice for Gabby, because Gabby does not get a lot of character development here. She is the ditzy character. She's sweet, but she's not very smart, and she's kind of a figure of fun for the majority of the series, which is kind of sad. The show ends up focusing mainly on Jane. It was supposed to be all 4 of the girls, but Jane in tests proved to be the most popular, and the people wanted Jane. Madison takes umbrage with this. She is raging. She wants to be a star. And so she starts leaking stories about Jane to the press in exchange for favourable column entries for herself. Jane has a super toxic boyfriend called Jesse. He's a rich celebrity, kind of socialite kind of guy. Doesn't have a job, not very interesting. During an off period, because Jesse and Jane, goodness, they're forever off and on, she smooches Braden, who is Jesse's bestie and roommate. So that's smart. However, pictures of this smooch find themselves on the gossip sites, which is interesting because this smooch happened in Jane's bedroom, but Jane doesn't close her curtains, so paparazzi got a little sneak. Jane is absolutely distraught by this. It's kind of ruining her good girl image, which isn't so much an image, it's just her reality. She is just a nice person. Scarlett goes off to confront Jesse. She is convinced Jesse was responsible for this, and she meets Jesse and he's like, no, not me, Scarlett. Madison came to me and gave me these pictures and told me to go and give them to a gossip rag, and I said no. So we know Madison had these pictures. Scarlett runs back to their apartment to tell Jane the truth, only to be confronted with a note from Jane saying, BRB, gone off to Mexico with Madison, and she's gone. The book ends. I thought this was a really good intro to the series. We get to know the characters, apart from Gabby. Jane, Scarlett and Madison all get POVs in this book, and it's really nice sort of seeing, as horrible a character as Madison is, like, she's the most interesting character because you can see her motivation and you can see her passion for fame. Like, she's not going about it the best way. She's not a nice person, but she's a fun character. I did do a little kind of research. Is Reddit research? Yes. Into who each character was kind of based on or inspired by. And the general consensus is Jane is pretty much a self-insert for Lauren Conrad, which makes it kind of sad because Jane gets like very little character development and she's kind of a doormat. Madison is inspired by Heidi. Gabby, unfortunately, is inspired by Audrina, which feels really mean. And Scarlett is believed to be kind of inspired by Lo with regards to the sort of fierce intelligence. I think there's a little bit of a mix of some of the other characters in there too, because there is a storyline that comes up in book 2, which I think mirrors Kristen Cavallari's real life. So that's interesting. Book number 2, we have Sweet Little Lies. My post is here! I'm back. Sidebar, my post is here. I am a basic woman, and I became mildly obsessed with the idea of having the Glossier banana carabiner? Don't know. The clip. It's a keychain with a banana on it. It's ridiculous. I'm so happy. So I have my Glossier sticker. Feels kind of right to be talking about a book series written by Lauren Conrad while I receive goods that are from Glossier, which was created by Emily Weiss, super intern. So I got the banana pudding, bam.com. Here it is. Oh, is it everything that I hoped it would be? Oh my goodness. It has a little sticker on it. This is so cool. I was just convinced that if I had a carabiner with a banana charm on it, that I would seem like I had my life together. And I can't explain my working there. I have a little banana charm and I can clip my bam.com, like, well, not in the box of course, but like I can put it on. It's so stupid, but I love it. And it has "You Look Good" on it. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my frivolous purchases. Another side note, I did my budget for July and this was the first month that I've included a fun money category where it basically just said I can spend 50, well, this month it was £50. £50 on like frivolous, fun things. And that's completely like revolutionized my month. It's been great because I could buy the silly £18 keychain that I think makes me feel like I have my life together. And I bought it with no guilt. And I'm delighted. But books, The Sun has also come out and I feel sweaty. So, Sweet Little Lies. This book picks up immediately after L.A Candy. I'm going to move slightly. Yep, welcome to this corner of my room where I don't normally film, but the sun is not in my face. I'm so shiny. Anyway, Sweet Little Lies. This book picks up immediately after L.A Candy. Jane and Madison are in Mexico hiding from the press. Scarlett is panicking because her best friend is not picking up her phone, not responding to emails, and Scarlett is having to keep the show going by hanging out with Gabby, and they do not have anything to talk about. I kind of feel like with some editing, books 1 and 2 really could have been just one singular book, but you know, what's a little bit of extra fun? I don't mind it. Madison is being so super sickly sweet to Jane, which is really, really fun because we can see Madison's perspective where she's like, oh, I hate pretending to be her friend. I want all the fame for me. Madison is even arranging to have the paparazzi show up at this apparently secluded villa where you can't even get phone reception. Jane realizes she cannot hide forever. She has to go back. Scarlett is trying her best to like keep the show going, but she is so painfully awkward with Gabby. The conversation is not flowing. The cast even follow Scarlett back to her family Christmas, where it is so awkward. Her parents are not overly warm and fuzzy, and it makes for some really bad TV. The original plan was that Scarlett and Jane were going to go to Jane's family for Christmas, a warm, cozy family gathering. But with Jane MIA, we have to make do with Scarlett's family. Fondue and all. With Jane away, Scarlett's kind of forced to find some new friends. She's got no friends. So she makes friends at uni. Previously, she had really struggled to find anybody who wanted to be her friend because people were either fame hungry and wanted to befriend her just to be on the show, or wanted nothing to do with her because she was on the show. So she manages to make some friends, and it's really nice seeing Scarlett come out of her shell a little bit. She also starts to make some googly eyes at a cameraman, and he's wearing a bandana. Jane returns to her family home at Christmas, much to the chagrin of Madison, who kind of wanted to keep her claws in her for a little bit longer, because in Madison's eyes, more time with Jane equals more time on screen, which she's not wrong about. Jane finally returns to her apartment, and Scarlett gets to tell her it was Madison. And so naturally, Jane believes her childhood best friend. Just kidding, she doesn't. Because Scarlett had been very vocal about hating Jessie and hating Madison. And so Jane decides that for some reason, Scarlett is going to make this up to protect Jessie but blame Madison. It makes no sense. Even Jessie tells Jane, look, it was Madison. And Jane doesn't believe him either. We don't need sense here. No sense, only book. Jane gets back with Jessie because, sure. And he has some very clear, let's just say, addiction issues. Substance issues, maybe. And his behaviour starts to get even more reckless and quite just dangerous. Like, these are 19-year-olds. This is a YA book. Some of the things happening were pretty terrifying. Braden is an actor, so when the smooch became public, he hot-footed out of LA and went to New York, where he just conveniently happened to have a pilot to film. But now he's back, so he and Jane go off for a lunch. They go to a very public place. It's very innocent. And of course, Jane, she wants to keep Jessie in the loop. She lets him know, and he reacts to this really calmly. Just kidding. He goes off his rocker. And he decides to just start speeding in the car with Jane until she apologizes for having lunch with a friend and kissing a boy when she was technically single. And then he leaves her at the side of the road. What a stand-up guy he is. He's also driving drunk. Like, that's a huge thing too. You forever driving drunk. You don't do that. Like, never do that. There's never a reason to drive drunk. No common sense is applied at all here by Jane. Like, in the entire book, not once does Jane use her thinking brain. More exciting things happen in this book outside of the pages, which is quite sad. Jane moves in with Madison because she doesn't trust her best friend, Scarlett. So she moves in with Madison, but Madison's torn because A, more screen time. She shares a home with Jane. But B, Madison doesn't own her home. It's not hers. It belongs to her sugar daddy, who's married. And she's kind of worried because her sugar daddy's wife is a fan of the show. She might recognize this home, but don't worry because nothing will come of that. We've met the wife, we've met the married man, but nothing will come of that. But we know it. Meanwhile, Scarlett's relationship with the cameraman becomes official, but they have to keep it secret because the crew and the cast cannot date. So naturally, Madison finds out and tells everybody. And then Liam, the cameraman, loses his job. At a party, Jane bumps into Diego, who we met one time in a club, and he was charming. He is an assistant to head lady of a gossip site, and he tells Jane, BTW, Madison was selling stories about you, including the smoochy pictures. So Jane moves back in with Scarlett. Doesn't talk to Scarlett before this. Scarlett just comes home one day. Jane's there and there's a dog because Jane got a dog. This dog really likes to chew shoes. And I don't know, if everything's suddenly fine, I wouldn't be cool with this. I don't know, because if you've moved out, you've moved out. You can't just come back. What if Scarlett had like rented out Jane's room? It's not Jane's home anymore. And also to come back with a dog, like, don't do that. Meet Scarlett first and be like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't believe you because I'm a silly fool. But no, none of that happened, and there we are. So book 3, Sugar and Spice. This book is a little bit different because we get kind of 2 main stories instead of a main story and some, little B lines. We have 2 main stories here because Jane, after finding out about Madison, doesn't want to work with Madison? Doesn't want to work at all with Madison. Doesn't want to shoot any scenes with her. So we get a more exciting Madison storyline other than just she's a villain. We get more from her. So I'm going to start with Madison's storyline first because it kind of seemed more fun. Madison is being blackmailed, and this blackmailer knows a lot about Madison. Mainly that Madison, who everyone thought of as being this rich, gorgeous, socialite, actually came from much more humble beginnings and has had a lot of cosmetic work. So that's not her face and that's not her money. And how does this blackmailer know so much about Madison? Because it's Madison's little sister, who is renamed Sophia. Madison doesn't have the money that Sophia wants, so she gets her cast in the show, and that way she's got her own income. But she is also a ticking time bomb because Sophia loves a party, and Sophia, well, she and Jessie should not be together, but wow, do they hit it off. Scarlett is still with Liam, but since he's been fired from the show, he can't feature in the show at all. So they have to keep their relationship off camera, which is fine for them. But the show is like, well, we kind of want to make some stuff up so that we have a storyline. And they do a lot of creative editing, which kind of puts a lot of pressure on Scarlett and Liam's relationship. But luckily, well, they don't use their words. Nobody uses their words, but they get past it. Gabby gets a lot of cosmetic surgery, and it's such a shame. She has this agent who's just not got her best interests at heart and is just kind of making her even more of a figure of fun, and it's so sad. Jane's storyline just surrounds her love life. Jessie's trying to make her jealous with a revolving door of gorgeous women, and of course Sophia, our new cast member. Brayden turns out to be super flaky now that Jane's single. He's like, oh, I don't know what I want. And she goes on some dates with Caleb, who is her ex-boyfriend from high school. A lot of these dates end up being double dates with Caleb's best friend and with Scarlett. So of course you can see how the editing is going to be done here to make it look a bit romantic. Scarlett and Caleb's friend had a smooch in high school, so of course everyone's going on about that because one kiss like 4 years ago. Wow. These people need more going on in their lives. Madison is desperate for more screen time, so she weasels her way into a job with Jane and they end up working together on a party, and Madison keeps trying to take credit for Jane's ideas and Jane is trying so hard not to break on camera because Madison wants nothing more than for Jane to just yell at her on screen. Jane also comes across Trevor's well-used moleskin notebook where he keeps his ideas for the show, and she can see just how much they are manipulated for content, and she can see that he is trying to build this narrative around Jane being kind of incompetent at her job, showing up late, forgetting things, not coming to meetings. So she uses that information for good, and she ends up not being made this fool and being good at her job because she wants to be good at her job. This means something to her. Madison ends up being outed as coming from humble beginnings, but nobody actually cares. Just gets yelled at a party and everyone's like, okay, cool. Shots, anyone? And the end. There is an epilogue. We learn that Scarlett and Liam actually moved to New York. And weirdly, the ending of this series was so super similar to the Hilary Duff series ending, where they moved to New York and lived in a brownstone, and I learned what a brownstone was. They sound delightful. So I have finished this series, and my main thoughts are, it's fun. Like, is it literary gold? Of course it's not. But nobody goes into, I feel, I'm not an expert, but I feel nobody goes into reading a fiction series or a book in general written by someone who isn't an author, so a celebrity, a reality star. Nobody goes into that book expecting it to be the best literature in the world. I think I went into this expecting it to be fun, expecting it to be like an episode of The Hills, and it was. And I kind of love that for me because I was entertained. I'm a very firm believer that no pleasures are guilty pleasures, that you like what you like, and you shouldn't be made to feel bad about liking something if it's not, you know, highbrow or academic or whatever. Like what you like, as long as you're not hurting anybody. And I feel like not every book has to have a nutritional value. Sometimes you can just read literally for funsies. And this book was like candy floss for the soul. I had been reading a lot of kind of like heavier books, and I wanted something that was light, fluffy, sugary sweet. And that's what I got with this. And I love it. It's such a comfort series. It's not the best written series, but I didn't think it would be. And as somebody who loved The Hills when it came out, recently did a rewatch, this was nostalgic for me, and it was fun, and I had a good time. I was thoroughly entertained, and that's kind of all I wanted. All I expected from this series, from this reread, was to be entertained, and I was. So, got what I wanted. Let me know if you've read this series. I have another series by Lauren Conrad, and I will be reading that at some point. And I'm making my way through some non-fiction books by the cast of The Hills as well. And oh, they're not good. But I will tell you about those when I've read more of them. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.